I am super pleased today to have Audrey Robertson here, the Assistant Secretary of the Department of Energy. She leads the Office of Critical Minerals and Energy Innovation. And I did a little bit of research on her background. It is fascinating. She began her career as an investment banker, has worked in private equity for more than a decade. She's founded multiple oil companies and is going to talk about that a little bit today. She has also been the Assistant Secretary for Energy for a few months now, got through her confirmation process, and I figured out that in her 20s, she served as a sommelier. So I definitely want her wine recommendations before we leave today. But let's start off with your evolving priorities at the Department of Energy. You were saying earlier that science is very important in your current job, and that your work in oil actually translates quite well into what you're doing right now with critical minerals. So tell us about what you're working on.
Well, Emily, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for hosting this event and allowing us to bring together some really extraordinary leaders in both government and business to get together. So thank you. It's a privilege to be here. So the Department of Energy historically has been a participant in the critical minerals space, mostly from the science side, as you said. We've formed partnerships across our lab network. We've worked in a number of different areas within the department, what was formerly fossil energy. We worked in our actual Department of Science. We worked in our material accelerators, but they never all worked together. And so we had a fairly large reorganization this year and created this new office called the Office of Critical Minerals and Energy Innovation, which allows us to take all of the work at the Department of Energy from mining, refining, processing, metallurgy, magnets, batteries, and recycling into one new office. And so it's been a pretty extensive effort over the last 2 months to get everyone aligned, but the focus of the department is to execute on the president's mission around solving this critical mineral challenge. We did not feel as though we could do that effectively without having the whole critical mineral ecosystem under one, I call it the accountability tent. Like, we have to deliver. And knowing what we're solving for in terms of magnets and batteries and end uses, it's going to help us understand what we're aiming for in terms of piloting novel technologies and advancing the science around whether it's recycling or processing, or frankly, mining technology in general. Subsurface technology that you mentioned, oil and gas. Absolutely. My last 20 years of my life has been in the energy space, with most of that in oil and gas. And when I started my career, we were looking at the United States suffering from being declining natural gas reserves and importing gas from other countries. And within the last 25 years, we have used American ingenuity and American entrepreneurship and leadership between the government and private industry to lead the world in developing shale plays. And that's turned us from the leading importer of energy resources to the world's leading exporter. We now produce oil and gas in this country cleaner than any nation in the world, and at levels not even within multiple decimal points of where the experts thought we would be years ago. And so I see critical minerals as in a similar place where we are not going to win by racing to be the bottom. We're going to win the critical minerals race by innovating and by working together and innovating to create better, faster, more environmentally friendly ways of not just producing critical minerals, but the key bottleneck, refining and processing, and then ultimately executing on the president's very clear mission to bring back manufacturing in the United States.
Mm-hmm. So, it sounds like there's a lot of crossover both on the technical side and also from the leadership side for you. And leading change in a big organization like that is a real challenge. How are you thinking about knitting together all of these different pieces so it is one coherent whole?
It is a big challenge. And I will say that never having been in the government or even had a vision that I would be in the government, I did not expect to have the really talented people to work. Like, I didn't think that the people we'd be working with would be absolutely brilliant scientists, and that we have forges in the United States government, that we have mines, that we have all this equipment, that we have these vast resources, and just giving them the direction to to go and to be excellent at what they're doing has been a privilege. I'm surprised at how quickly we've been able to coalesce a team and execute a mission. So I'm really happy and privileged to be leading this team.
Yeah, I love it when we can have high-ranking government officials, especially those who have come in from the private sector, and they can see both sides. They can see like the amazing things the private sector brings to the table, and then they kind of take a peek behind the curtain of government, and they say, wow, we have all kinds of phenomenal people and phenomenal resources too. And when you can marry those two things together, you can make real progress. And I love to hear the vision.
Well, and I would say on that topic, you heard from my colleagues across the government in Department of Commerce, the Department of War, in variety of different, really well-established, well-funded government entities that are advancing individual companies and individual projects through equity investments and really helping drive those forward. We want to be that technology partner for those companies. So if our colleagues across the government are making a push in one direction or another, we want to be the technological and the science-based resources that advance that. So for example, we have this unbelievable network of supercomputers across our 17 national labs. We use those now for building digital twins, for helping map subsurface mining, for developing new technology and tools to solve challenges in processing and recycling. We just need those companies to come tell us that's the challenge. So give us the challenge, we want to solve it.
Yeah, that's what you want. You want government to be a partner, helping bring the best out. So you mentioned recycling. Can we talk a little bit about recycling's role and the role it plays in building resilient critical mineral ecosystems? Because I know that this is one of those things that our adversaries love to use as a lever against us. And if we can recycle what we have, that seems like a good way ahead, yes?
Yes, of course. I love the term urban mining because it is just essentially reusing the metals we already have. It allows you to not go through the process of metallization if you can recycle your metals after they've already been produced. So recycling is a very important part of the ecosystem, and right now we export most of our black mass. But at the Department of Energy, it's been a big focus. I think there's already been an announcement. We have over $500 million in grants dedicated to advancing recycling technologies. But this isn't new for the Department of Energy. It's been the last 15 years that acid-free dissolution recycling was invented by the Department of Energy, a technology a number of folks here know very well, called flash joule heating. Was invented at Rice University with the Department of Energy. But majority of electrochemical separation and a lot of the, I would say, really exciting cutting-edge recycling tools that will make recycling more effective, more efficient, and profitable. That's what we want. That's what we're going for, is leapfrogging the current technology and allowing our partners to take what's developed in the labs, out of the labs.
Yeah, just like we've gotten to be energy independent with our oil and gas resources, we would love to be more independent when it comes to critical minerals, right?
We absolutely will. That is the president's task. That is what we're doing.
Yeah, so you mentioned the grant for recycling. I also hear there is a $1 billion investment that the Department of Energy is putting out there to advance mining, processing, and manufacturing technologies. That's a big number. What are we going to do with this big number?
Well, that's just the beginning, and that was in the last sort of 12 months. So we have a number of different initiatives. We have a project called the Mine of the Future that's really helping innovate around new ways of mining. We have a big effort towards reprocessing tailings and reprocessing material at existing industrial sites. That's a huge effort. I know we have some companies here that are working to do that as well. If we can take advantage of what is already above ground and use those resources effectively, we think that just puts us ahead of the game. If we can turn waste into value, that's great. So those are just two of the examples. We have what's called the Critical Mineral Accelerator, and these are our smaller, think of it as like venture capital stage investing, where we are partnering with science-based innovators around new materials, new ways of doing things. And our goal in this administration is to not have those processes take 5 years to go from one technology readiness level to another. We want to go from lab to pilot to commercialization as fast as possible. And I really thank the Trump 45 team because they launched a process that we are opening in about a few months here called EMAPS. It was a $250 million facility at the National Lab of the Rockies. It stands for Energy Material Processing at Scale. Essentially, this is your test bed to take your pilot and go towards commercial scale, to make sure that the way that you're doing things will scale appropriately, and then using our lab resources to do that. So the partnership concept and what we're doing, I think we're living by that every day.
Yeah, that's phenomenal that you've got a playground out there where you can go take your stuff and just see if it'll work.
That's why I said, like, yes, it was unbelievable. That was the Trump administration and the 45, they started that process. It took the entire Biden administration to complete it, and we're about to open it I think it's this spring.
Oh, very exciting.
It's great.
Yeah. We heard Secretary Burgum talk earlier about speeding things up, about the 12-day process versus the 2-year process. And maybe the 12-day process is just as good if you can focus in. And I know that is music to the ears of so many people in industry who want to work with government, who want to take advantage of government's resources. But at the same time, they worry that, they're going to be stuck in a 2-year-long process that may never come to an end. That's very exciting to hear that a lot of this is accelerating.
It's very exciting. And Secretary Burgum is absolutely right. We call it Trump time. And there is no excuses for not getting things done. No. And you're right. I'm one of many from the private sector that has joined the government to advance these initiatives at speed and hopefully execution excellence that hasn't been demanded before.
Yeah, it feels like a real moment to do that acceleration. I mean, a lot of my work is in critical technologies and what happens when you apply technologies in new ways to old problems. And I love this idea that we're in this moment of creative destruction, where you can say, why are we doing it this way? Maybe we can rethink how we're using AI, how we're using processes, and just start fresh. So
absolutely.
That's really exciting. I wanted to ask you about copper and uranium. I know that these are two of the critical pieces that we're looking at. How is the administration thinking about copper and uranium?
Those are really important, obviously, newer additions to the critical minerals list. And at least from the Department of Energy's perspective, energy is the backbone to everything we do, and copper is one of those enablers to energy transmission and power generation. And so as we're looking to advance reliable, affordable, and secure energy, copper demands are going to go through the roof. And I think we just saw this morning another nation announced a copper stockpile initiative. I think it was this morning, actually.
Yeah.
So we're not the only ones that see the importance of copper in that ecosystem. Uranium is another really important and critical mineral towards executing the president's executive orders around nuclear energy and delivering on Secretary Wright's promise to deliver reliable, affordable, secure energy. Nuclear does that. We need to lead the world. We will. But you can't do that without fuel. And so having uranium advanced to a critical mineral will allow us to pursue it with the vigor that we need to.
Okay. I'm going to close with 2 very hard questions. First hard question is, what does success look like to you? You've been in place for just a minute, and I know that you're going to have a long and successful tenure, but when you walk away from this job eventually, what do you want to have been proud of? And then the second really tough question I'm going to ask you is, what's your go-to red wine on a cold winter evening? So.
All right. That one might be more complicated. There's so many. But success, there's so many things we want to achieve. But at the end of the day, we need to help build this industry again. And it's going to require this all-of-government approach. It was said several times in the early panels today that government has never worked this efficiently before. I will tell you, we talk every day with our partners across the government. We are incredibly coordinated, and it is going to allow us to advance this industry so that my high school kids, when they get out of college, there's going to be a lot of opportunities in metals and mining and critical minerals that have never existed in this country, or they haven't existed for 50 years. So we have a number of major workforce initiatives that we're advancing. I am really excited to use my experience in the oil and gas business to really help increase the focus on subsurface and reservoir knowledge around critical minerals. How do we actually target different bodies of ore? How do we actually mine declining grades of ore? So I think we're going to be we're going to lead the world, I think, in subsurface technology, just the way we do in the oil and gas business. And then above ground, there's this bottleneck around processing. And processing, unfortunately, the timeline there is generally longer than the time we have to execute. And so we need to work doubly hard at solving that. We need to have strong partnerships. We need to have a laser focus, and we cannot bring up excuses to delivering. And so if we look back and we'll have set up a viable processing industry in the United States, we are leading the world in subsurface technology. That means that the end goal is we will be producing magnets and batteries and metals that will help reindustrialize America. Getting the workforce piece right is another big challenge. And that's something we've got a team that is their key focus. How do we advance the workforce necessary within the scope of our department to attack critical minerals?
So for the high school and college kids who are watching out there and thinking, this sounds like an interesting and lucrative field to get into, what kind of classes would you recommend they take? What should they be thinking about?
Well, we're working with a group of 20 different schools across the country to help set up career pathways. Because I don't know if anyone's looked at the cover of Forbes and seen a mineral entrepreneur and been like, I want to be that entrepreneur.
Yeah.
We need those people. We need that excitement, and you need to see where you want to go. And I think we've heard a lot about the AI revolution has trickled down towards matriculation, where you had all these kids wanting to go into computer engineering. They're not doing that. A number of big technical universities that were in our office this week said kids are worried. They don't want to go into these fields because they think they will be essentially, they will be worked out of a job. There won't be that opportunity for success. So we need to give people the opportunity to succeed, which means we have to have the industry. We have to have the focus on career pathways that are defined and celebrated. And all of that really relies on having a profitable sector that's going to deliver value. And so it's going to be in all of government and a private sector and intergovernmental. So this ministerial tomorrow is exciting because this is not an America alone. This is an America together with our allies. That's how we're going to solve this.
Yeah, I love it. It's like starting from the below ground and building all the way up to the ivory tower.
Absolutely.
It's all the way through.
And then the hardest one, probably a Marquessan Pinot Noir tonight. That would be great. Yes. Burgundy clones, American made.
American made, yeah. I recently discovered a wine that was called Mount Peak Gravity that I loved. And I went on a trip to Slovakia and experienced Slovakian red wines for the first time.
They're wonderful.
It was wonderful, new and different.
They're wonderful, yeah.
Well, we can continue this wonderful conversation about wine at the coffee hour, which is happening next. We're going to break now, and we're going to have about 10 minutes before we reconvene here for a panel on financing and investment. But first, please help me thank the Assistant Secretary for her insights.
Thank you.